everyone, and thank you for watching Inspiring Careers. My name is Dan Johnson, and I'm here today with a person who has recently been nominated, or became a finalist, I should say, for the Farmerfields MSL of the Year 2017. I'll let him introduce himself. Over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is James Koo and I'm a Medical Science Liaison for AbbVie Pharmaceuticals.
Cool, excellent. Firstly, James, thank you very, very much for coming on my YouTube show. You are the first guest of the first episode. I just want to get straight into it. I'm here today to kind of pick your ideas and have a bit of discussion about what you feel has helped you become an MSL finalist 2017 for the Farmerfields Awards. I want to ask you just a simple question, James. What are you most passionate about in your role? Why does being a medical science liaison mean so much to you?
So I first started to hear about the MSL role, I think it was the early 2000s. I actually started my career as a primary care sales representative through Ashfield Healthcare, and I was about a few months into the role and I heard about the MSL role. I became very interested in what it was and what it involved and how the interactions differed to that of the sales representatives and what value they could bring to a company. And actually I was really interested in getting into that type of role in the future, but at that point in time I had an undergraduate degree and you kind of needed that extra qualification. So I decided at that point maybe I would work towards getting a postgraduate qualification. So I applied and was awarded the scholarship to study overseas for 2 years for a master's program, with all intents and purposes of coming back into the industry and obtaining an MSL position.
Excellent. Whereabouts overseas did you go? What did you study?
So I looked at master's programs in the UK and they were very expensive actually, and I really thought with that coupled with the cost that I'd already incurred through my undergraduate studies, I thought, oh, this could be a bit of a sticky wicket. So Taiwan was offering some scholarship programs, a pilot scheme really for overseas students for the first time. So I applied through the National Science Council and was awarded a 2-year scholarship place to study structural biology and bioinformatics at National Tsinghua University. So I did that, I completed it. It was an amazing experience culturally as well as from a scientific background. It kind of built my appreciation and my passion in science and data and objectivity, which I think are really important core components of the MSL role. And then I came back to the UK and tried to secure a position, of which I was actually very unsuccessful coming back. And it actually took me in total from wanting to become an MSL back in the UK to becoming an MSL about 8 years in total.
Wow, so it wasn't just a straight, you got your master's and straight away you made job applications and you was an MSL, off you kind of go. It was I mean, how was that job search process?
So when I returned from the UK, I applied to a few companies for MSL positions, but I didn't even make the first cut really. I think the difficulty was that I'd been out of industry for 2 years, so I wasn't in industry, and I'd never been an MSL before, so I can empathise a lot with aspiring MSLs with qualifications that do struggle to get into the role, because it's always that catch-22 scenario. So I did have to re-enter as a representative and work my way up through the ranks, hospital specialist, and then to roles which kind of bridged the gap and allowed me to have some medical experience, and then finally secured an MSL position at Otsuka Pharmaceuticals in 2012.
Brilliant. So is that kind of the advice you would give if there's any kind of graduates watching, anyone trying to look into how to break into an MSL, would you say working your way up is the best way to go about it?
Well, that's one of the ways. I mean, to be honest with you, there are companies now that I'm aware of that do take people straight out of academia, companies that take, for example, pharmacists, specialist pharmacists that would like to become MSLs. But I think it's all on, it's about the individual company, it's about the individual, it's their it's on their merits and their drive and ambition, and maybe their knowledge and understanding of their MSL role, which is tricky because the MSL role is, I believe, a very dynamic role at the moment. It's changing in role, scope, and function. I think it will continue to do so over the next few years. But yeah, it's all about tying up a lot of different components in an individual that really tick all the boxes for a potential hiring manager.
Okay, so you've been in MSL now for, is it 3 years?
Yes. Sorry, I've been in MSL. So I became an MSL in 2014. I became a hospital specialist with some medical projects from 2012. So it took me some time actually to become an MSL, as I said. But I was in an MSL for Otsuka for about 2.5 years, and I've been an MSL with AbbVie for about 1.5 years now.
So, how did you go about getting? What was the process for getting nominated for the Farmerfields Awards? Because there's two main awards I'm aware for medical science liaisons. There's the Pharma Times and the Farmerfields. So what did you go through? I mean, how did that all begin? Take me through that.
Oh right. So to be honest with you, it was a bit of a whirlwind. There were multiple internal projects happening at the time, but I received an email from one of the senior managers in AbbVie to say that I'd been nominated through my line manager for the Farmerfields Awards. But of course, it's a process where you have to complete an assessment form, and it's assessed by a panel within the Farmerfield team, who then go on to determine whether you're successful or not to be invited for the assessment day. After which you are then selected or not to attend the finalist award dinner, where they whittle the numbers down again to 6 and a final winner from that group.
Okay. And are you given any kind of insight into what that assessment criteria might be, or is it just kind of you're left in the dark a bit based on your nomination?
Well, with the MSL assessment, there are essentially two parts to that. One is kind of a task that they give you beforehand, which in the case this year was to prepare a presentation on a clinical paper, which is outside of your therapeutic area. Well, I imagine it's for a lot of people, it was for me, and to critically appraise that. And then the second part really is, if I remember rightly, was more of what you would do in a certain scenario type question, which they give you on the day, and there's no preparation needed in advance.
Okay, no pressure then. No pressure.
No pressure. Bit on the day, I've got to say.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. So that really does sort of help stand out. So it's not just a simple nomination. You really got to be able to perform just on the day, and that sounds tough. That sounds tough. Okay, so being an MSL, then what are the toughest problems you faced, and what are the toughest problems you think there are in the role, and how do you think they can be solved at the moment?
So the toughest problems in the MSL role, I think at the moment, so speaking on a personal level, one is time management with multiple projects and sometimes limited resource, especially when you've got maybe a number of account specialists in the field who drive maybe a large proportion of your work through medical information inquiries, asking for a medical science liaison or MSL to go out and answer specific questions on data, adverse events, and possibly off-label inquiries, and then couple that with your commitments to internal and external stakeholders in the medical projects that you're involved with, as well as managing, as everyone does to a certain extent, the administrative burden of the jobs and the roles that we do in terms of reporting and admin stuff like expenses, etc. So yeah, it can be a juggle sometimes, particularly when you're covering a large geographical area. Okay. Secondly, and I think another thing that's a big challenge potentially for MSLs in general is demonstrating value and measuring and measuring what we do, because a lot of the times, it's maybe a bit easier for maybe other functions in terms of maybe the sales representatives. It's your sales versus target. For medical, it's more maybe qualitative. It's the projects you do and the outcomes and how you demonstrate the outcomes that you can lead to. What results and impact are they for the business, for patients, for science? What are the benefits there? And it's demonstrating those that I think have been and maybe continue to be sometimes challenging for MSLs.
Okay, so this is the question I've been really looking forward to asking, because we had a really good chat when we first spoke on the phone the other day. So I'm just going to get straight into it. What are your top 3 success secrets that have helped you most in your career?
Top 3 success secrets. Maybe the first one would be ask questions in your role. Before you even become an MSL, ask the questions about what an MSL does and try and truly understand what an MSL does. I think one of the failures for me was not asking those questions and understanding what MSLs do before applying to be an MSL, even though I said earlier that it took me several years to become an MSL. When I became an MSL, I think some of the first feedback I received from the people that were hiring me was there was disagreement in whether to offer me the job, and one of the reasons that came back was maybe my lack of understanding of what an MSL was. I thought, I know what an MSL did. I'd spoken to MSLs, but I hadn't truly understood what they did on a day-to-day basis. Maybe the workings of an MSL, their interactions with the brand team, matrix working, cross-functional working with internal stakeholders like health, economics, outcomes research, your market access teams, value prop, HTA. There were so many areas that MSLs can interact with and add value and insights to that I didn't fully understand and appreciated before becoming an MSL. So asking questions and understanding how those pieces of the jigsaw all fit together, I think, are really, really important. Other bits I think that are important to be an MSL is some of the basics. Be prepared in terms of your visits to healthcare professionals. Understand them, and I'm sure that MSLs are listening to this will probably think this is a bit old hat, but it's know your customer, understand their research interests. Sometimes by looking at their lab work, their past publications, you can understand what they've done, what they're interested to. Try and possibly align that to the company's objectives, critical success factors, research projects, and have that conversation and go in and make an impact and try and be that partner of choice through building rapport. It's the simple face-to-face, building rapport with people, and in impressing them with your passion and commitment and understanding of their challenges and interests that I think will possibly help set you apart. And thirdly, don't overpromise. It's another thing maybe that I've been guilty of in the past is maybe overpromising. Research, funding, proposals, they're not a dead cert, and often these things may fall flat for a number of reasons. So it's important from the outset to be clear that with collaborative projects and ISS investigator-initiated studies, etc., that there isn't a definite yes at the end of the day. There has to be several layers of decision making from the company, and it's helping them to build up a strong enough case to give them the best chance of a positive outcome, whilst not giving them the impression that it will always be a green light. So those possibly are my 3.
Cool. And just a 3 recap on those. So your first one, you just state them again: 1, 2, and 3.
So it's ask questions, be inquisitive before you become an MSL, and when you are an MSL, I'm on a continual learning basis. As an MSL at the moment, I'm learning stuff every day that I didn't know before, because I believe the MSL role is, as I said earlier, continually evolving. The second was preparation. Do your homework, do your research, and be punctual. Be early. rather than be late. And don't overpromise was the third.
Cool. Excellent. Do you know what? That advice could be so cross-functional as well. You could apply that to anyone, whether they're starting a business. You can apply it to someone who's just in the midst of a job search. It's such good all-round advice, and it's obviously great to see it applied specifically to the MSL position. But you know, I mean, you might agree, you might disagree, I don't know. But it sounds like really good general career advice as well. Be inquisitive, ask questions, prepare as best you can, and don't overpromise. You know, there's no point trying to overpromise and then end up under-delivering in many situations. One of the things again, we were talking about this the other day. I come across this a lot, and this is why I was really keen to bring it up today. Is that the aspect of fear? People think worrying too much that they will make mistakes. As I mentioned to you, I've helped people when I work with other companies in all experience positions, from senior director to middle management, where they always get kind of worried, both in their jobs or in a job search or in any kind of networking situation, that they're afraid to make mistakes out of fear of looking like they're not competent or skilled enough. Would you say that, again, you might have a couple of answers for this, would you say this is the best piece of career advice that you've received, was not making mistakes, and what we talked about the other day, or is there anything else you'd like to tell us about what you think your best piece of career advice is?
Well, apart from those top three suggestions, which I suspect that a lot of current MSLs already know, I always consider myself to be maybe not as good as other people. I feel I'm surrounded always by great experts that I can ask questions to. Don't be fearful, as you mentioned, about asking questions. It doesn't matter. I think, you know, if you're lucky enough, like I've been to work for companies that have a very kind of a flat structure, without that hierarchy and fear of looking silly, then asking questions can be your best friend, really, and a very, very valuable resource to make you better than you are. I'm always happy and confident to ask questions, as I believe that, you know, when you ask the questions, you will get answers based on the experience of individuals who have largely been in the role for many more years than yourself, and have probably learned from mistakes that they've made. So I absolutely implore others to do exactly the same. There is, as they say with the old mantra, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No, there really isn't at all. What do you think the future of the MSL role looks like, and how do you think it will evolve?
So as I just mentioned, I think in terms of our role function remit, it's still being evolved. So, for example, I think recently I was very lucky to work with our health economics and outcomes research team and some clinicians on a real world evidence piece of data to look at the burden of a particular disease area and what that burden looks like to the health economy. So in terms of patients as well, patients coming into hospital through A&E, and then being admitted non-electively, and then being readmitted within a certain time frame, because sometimes that incurs a financial burden to trust, and also it's the quality of life of patients. So it was working to really put together an analysis there to look at the burden of the specific disease area, and then developing some data to present that to Congress. And I was very fortunate to do that myself recently. But those type of things, working cross-functionally with external stakeholders, that's one of the areas I believe that MSLs can really add value to in the roles that we do.
Fantastic. Listen, James, that kind of brings us to the end of our main discussion, so thank you so much for your input. What we're going to do now is we're going to move into a quickfire round. So if anyone watching this remembers the Friends episode where Phoebe just asked questions just to get the truth out of people, that's exactly what we're going to do now with you, James. So James, okay. Are you looking forward to the quickfire round?
Yes.
Cool. All right, here we go. Okay, so question one: what is your favourite movie?
So my favourite movie is all about my children at the end of the day, and I love sitting down with them and watching films. So my favourite movie would have to be a film that they love as well. So that would be Disney Pixar's Cars 2. So for anyone that has children out there, particularly little boys, will probably know this movie very well. It's some elements to there about being your best, using the people around you, those experts, to be better, to improve your own performance, and that important point of not putting the wrong fuel in your car. So yeah, Cars 2, Disney Pixar.
I'll definitely have to watch it now.
Yeah.
What's been your most favourite holiday?
Oh, holiday. So I like spending time in Southeast Asia. So it'd probably be I spent some time over, as I mentioned, in Taiwan studying. So there's still some places there that I would really like to go back to at some point. So I'd be sitting on a nice beach in the southern part of Taiwan in a place called Kenting, where you've got really bright blue, crystal clear waters on a hot sunny day with bubble milk tea as they drink over there. So that would be my perfect holiday.
Yeah, that doesn't sound half bad actually at all. Wouldn't mind some of that. Okay, so what's been your most influential book?
To be honest, I've never really had an influential book. I've probably more influenced by the people around me.
Okay.
So for me, it's people, and it's the people that have challenged me, and particularly the people that have told me, like I alluded to earlier, that I wasn't ready to do the role that I'm in today, and they were right. And those kind of things have really impacted me and made me think about what I want to do and what I need to do to get there. Because I believe anyone can do a role per se, but to be good at your role, you need to push yourself, challenge yourself, and to always ask questions.
Cool, brilliant. And what's your favourite thing to do outside of work?
Outside of work, I spend every available moment with my children. So we love the beach, and we would just get in the car and go to the coast and go rock pooling, fish and chips on the beach with ice cream, and just spend the day looking at the sea or in the sea. That's what I like to do.
That sounds perfectly brilliant. Sounds absolutely blissful. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'd like to give anyone who's watching your best final piece of career advice. So for any MSL, whether they're senior, junior, just starting, or well into their career, what is the number one final bit of advice you would like to give to everyone watching today?
Well, I've kind of touched on all the other aspects, I think, through some of the other questions that you've asked today. But maybe it's with MSLs, it's all about knowing the product and knowing your teams. So to do that, I think, don't be afraid to go and knock on the door of your HEOR team, introduce yourself, get to know what they're doing, what their projects are, know your brand team, the critical success factors for them, how your medical projects align to them, know where you can get your data from. So whether that's your investigator brochure, your clinical study report, whether that's from the EPARs, from the EMA, which are a fantastic resource of information, and I only learned that through others who've signposted me. Know the story of your drug from development, from your early PK, PD, phase 1s, all the way through to your phase 3 registration trials. Not just how your company interpret your data, but how the regulatory authorities interpret your data, because that's important, because that's the really the face of the company to the healthcare providers that know the information as well as you do. So yeah, know your teams and know your data. That's probably my one piece of info. But if I'm speaking to MSLs, then they probably know that anyway. It's just something I found out the hard way.
Brilliant. All right, listen, James, you've been an absolutely fantastic guest. I really appreciate you coming on and giving everyone your best career advice for succeeding as an MSL. I are people more than happy to get in touch with you over LinkedIn if they want to ask questions or ask anything further about what they've read today? Is that all right for them to send you a LinkedIn request?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, to be honest with you, I get quite a few requests from people doing that, and it just is a very good way to reach out to people like myself who are in the position, who can impart their take on things, and don't just take my take on things. Please ask other MSLs, and I'm sure things vary between individuals and different companies, but yes, please do. Very welcome to.
Fantastic. Well, if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to get in touch with James on LinkedIn, or you can get in touch with myself. There'll be details below in the description of this YouTube video. My name's been Dan Johnston. This has been James Koo. Thank you very much for coming today. You've been an excellent guest, and thank you everyone out there who's been watching Inspiring Careers, and I look forward to bringing you the next video. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan.